In this unit, our topic is art. We will focus on art and artists. By the end of this unit, you will know more about art, identify the global structure of an academic essay, and retell the research based on keywords. Now let's go to the text.
On art and artist. It is fascinating to watch an artist thus striving to achieve the right balance. But if we ask him why he did this or changed that, he might not be able to tell us. He does not follow any fixed rules. He just feels this way. It is true that some artists or critics in certain periods have tried to formulate laws of their art. But it always turned out that poor artists did not achieve anything when trying to apply these laws, while great masters could break them and yet achieve a new kind of harmony no one had thought of before. When the great English painter, Sir Joshua Reynolds, explained to his students in the Royal Academy that blue should not be put into the foreground of paintings, but should be reserved for the distant backgrounds, for the fading hills on the horizon, his rival Gainsborough, so the story goes, wanted to prove that such academic rules are usually nonsense. He painted the famous Blue Boy, whose blue costume in the central foreground of the picture stands out triumphantly against the warm brown of the background. The truth is that it is impossible to lay down rules of this kind because one can never know in advance what effect the artist may wish to achieve. He may even want a shrill, jarring note if he happens to feel that that would be right. As there are no rules to tell us when a picture or statue is right, it is usually impossible to explain in words exactly why we feel that this is a great work of art. But that does not mean that one work is just as good as any other, or that one cannot discuss matters of taste. The more we look at them, the more we notice points which have escaped before us. We begin to develop a feeling for the kind of harmony each generation of artists has tried to achieve. The greater our feeling for these harmonies, the more we shall enjoy them, and that, after all, is what matters. The old proverb that you cannot argue about matters of taste may well be true, but that should not conceal the fact that taste can be developed. This is again a matter of common experience, which everybody can test in a modest field. To people who are not used to drinking tea, one blend may taste exactly like another, but if they have the leisure, will, and opportunity to search out such refinements as there may be, they may develop into true connoisseurs who can distinguish exactly what type and mixture they prefer, and their greater knowledge is bound to add to the enjoyment of the choicest blends. Admittedly, taste in art is something infinitely more complex than taste in food and drink. It is not only a matter of discovering various subtle flavors, it is something more serious and more important. After all, the great masters have given their all in these works. They have suffered for them, sweated blood over them, and the least they have a right to ask of us is that we try to understand what they wanted to do. One never finishes learning about art. There are always new things to discover. Great works of art seem to look different every time one stands before them. They seem to be as inexhaustible and unpredictable as real human beings. It is an exciting world of its own, with its own strange laws and its own adventures. Nobody should think he knows all about it, for nobody does. Nothing, perhaps, is more important than just this. That to enjoy these works, we must have a fresh mind, one which is ready to catch a hint and to respond to every hidden harmony. A mind, most of all, not cluttered up with long, high-sounding words and ready-made phrases. It is infinitely better not to know anything about art than to have the kind of half-knowledge which makes for snobbishness. The danger is very real. There are people who are always haunted by the fear that they might be considered uneducated if they confess to liking a work which seems too obviously pleasant or moving. They end by being snobs who lose their true enjoyment of art and who call everything very interesting, which they really find somewhat repulsive. Knowing something of the history of building, of picture making, and of statue making helps us to understand why artists worked in a particular way or why they aimed at certain effects. Most of all, it is a good way of sharpening our eyes for the particular characteristics of works of art and of thereby increasing our sensitivity to the finer shades of difference. Perhaps it is the only way of learning to enjoy them in their own right, but no way is without its dangers. One sometimes sees people walking through a gallery, catalogue in hand. Every time they stop in front of a picture, they eagerly search for its number. We can watch them thumbing through their books, and as soon as they have found the title or the name, they walk on. They might just as well have stayed at home, for they have hardly looked at the painting. They have only checked the catalogue. It is a kind of mental short-circuit which has nothing to do with enjoying a picture. People who have acquired some knowledge of art history are sometimes in danger of falling into a similar trap. When they see a work of art, they do not stay to look at it, but rather search their memory for the appropriate label. They may have heard that Rembrandt was famous for his chiaroscuro, which is the Italian technical term for light and shade, so they nod wisely when they see a Rembrandt, mumble, "Wonderful chiaroscuro," and wander on to the next picture. We are all apt to succumb to such temptations. To talk cleverly about art is not very difficult, because the words critics use have been employed in so many different contexts that they have lost all precision. But to look at a picture with fresh eyes, and to venture on a voyage of discovery into it, is a far more difficult, but also a much more rewarding task. There is no telling what one might bring home from such a journey.
Hello, this is Yang Fang from Tsinghua University. Today I have invited two students to come to talk about art and artists.
Hello, this is Zuowan. I come from the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures.
Hello, this is Qin Zixiang. I also come from the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures.
In the third unit, we have still many difficult sentences. Now let's look at problem 1. Do you have any questions?
Yes, about this feels his way. What does it mean?
Feel one's way means he himself is not sure about it.
Well, how does the phrase turn out to be? Does it imply the result of something?
Yes, turn out means the consequence of something. In this paragraph, do you still have any difficulties?
Well, I was wondering about the meaning of subtle.
Subtle means not obvious. Maybe it's hard to notice. When we read the great work of art in the book, I was wondering, have you been to a museum recently?
Yes, I went to the British Museum in London. I spent a couple of hours here appreciating the piece of work.
I have just went to the art museum in the Tsinghua University, and there are many pieces of art really impressed me.
Yes, we just had a new museum last year, right?
Yes.
Before we move on to another paragraph, do you have any question here?
Yes, I found the use of haunted here is very interesting and different. Can you explain more to us?
If something haunts you, it means it is unpleasant. You are worried about it.
Well, I think I'm always haunted by the test.
Yes, you're right. Some of my students are worried about examination, they may say, or also haunted by examinations. Coming to the end of this passage, And how do you feel the language?
Well, I think this article used a great many of vivid expression, such as sharp eyes, fresh eyes, or there's no tonguing, and I think it's very interesting.
Yes, and I think this article also provides us a different view to look at the subject of art.
See, you are noticing a little subtle flavor of the beauty of language.
Yes, and we are appreciating the beauty of language.
In this sentence, feel one's way means he himself is not quite sure how he has achieved the right balance. It could be due to his own experience. He just feels that it is the right way to do things.
In this sentence, the phrase turn out implies the result of something. Poor artists did not achieve much when they tried to follow these laws. When great artists break the laws, they might be successful, for they could achieve a new kind of harmony, which has not occurred to others before.
The shrill, jarring note means a discordant note which does not fit in with the rest of the work.
The more we look at the work of art, the more we may find beauty which we haven't noticed before.
If people have the time to taste it, the willingness and opportunity to explore why the works of art are superb, people may become a true master of art, who can tell exactly what type of work or mixture of styles they prefer. Actually, a knowledge of art is necessary to allow one to enjoy the works of art one chooses.
It is more than a way of finding all kinds of subtle flavors. Here, subtle flavors refer to minor or unnoticeable differences in flavors. Then the writer indicates that there could be more serious and more important issues.
Some people often feel the fear that they might not be thought well educated if they tell others they like a work of art, which is obviously pleasant and moving.
Most importantly, it is a way of making us more aware of the particular characteristics of works of art. As a result of this awareness, we become more sensitive to the tiny differences.
Be apt to do something means be more likely to do something. In this sentence, it means we are all unlikely to resist such temptations.
To look at a picture from a new and fresh perspective, or to explore and discover what is in a work of art could be more difficult, but it could be more rewarding task. There is no telling means we can hardly tell. This sentence means that we have no way of telling people how to appreciate work of art except by discovering for yourself.